went from a college basketball prospect to 600 pounds. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened. Not because it's easy, but because I wish someone had told me what I'm about to tell you before I lost a decade of my life finding it out the hard way. How does a disciplined athlete, someone with scouts at her games, end up unable to walk across a parking lot? That's the question I've been living inside for years. And the answer isn't what you think. My name is Ella. At 17, I was 5'11", 162 pounds, starting small forward for Jefferson High, 2-time regional champions. Basketball wasn't just a sport. It was my entire identity, my schedule, my language, my future. 5:30 a.m., drills until my lungs burned, meals calculated to the gram. Every choice I made pointed at one thing: going further. By junior year, 3 college scouts had shown up to watch me play. 3. My coach, Coach Denise, pulled me aside after one of those games. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Ella, the only person who can stop you is you." I didn't understand what that meant then. I do now. Because a few months later, I proved her right. I got a partial scholarship to Crestwood University. I showed up freshman year with a meal plan notebook and 2 pairs of practice shoes. The first 2 months were everything I'd hoped for. Then came October 14th, the day my entire world collapsed in 60 seconds. Coach gathered us in the locker room after practice. She had a look I'd never seen on her before. Not anger, not disappointment, guilt. "The university is cutting the women's basketball program," she said. "Budget restructuring, effective end of semester." Nobody moved. One girl started crying, another laughed, that hollow laugh that has nothing to do with anything being funny. Me? I sat completely still, because I had held every hour of my life around a thing that had just been erased while I sat there watching. No warning, no backup plan, no "here's what you do next." Just gone. I walked back to my dorm alone, sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, and something inside me that had been held tight for years let go. And once it let go, I could never quite get it back. I transferred a few months later. Westfield College, new state, new city, new everything. I told myself it was a fresh start. It wasn't. It was an escape. No scouts, no expectations, no one who knew who I used to be. At first, that felt like relief. Then it started to feel like disappearing. I tried to hold on to my routine for about 3 weeks. Woke at 6, stretched, jogged, but there's something about running when you have no destination. Eventually, you just stop. That's when I met Maya, and that's when things got worse. I just didn't know it yet. Maya was everything I wasn't trained to be. Loud, easy, no rules, no schedule. She made everything feel softer, and after months of feeling invisible, soft felt incredible. She always had food. That sounds small. It wasn't. She'd show up at 10 p.m. with fried chicken, 2 sodas, a box of cookies just in case. If I said I wasn't hungry, she'd laugh it off. "Come on, you barely eat. You deserve this." At the time, it felt like someone finally seeing me. Looking back, I think she just didn't want to eat alone, but I was too lonely to tell the difference. The late nights became ritual. The food became our language, a way of saying, "I'm here," without saying anything at all. I stopped thinking about what I was eating. I stopped thinking about training. I stopped thinking about the girl I used to be. And for a while, that felt like freedom. It wasn't freedom. It was drift, and I was moving fast. It happened at the campus bookstore. I reached for a large hoodie, same as always, and it didn't close. I stood there holding it, confused, like somehow the fabric had shrunk. I bought an XL and told myself it was a brand thing. A month later, the XL was tight too. How did I not notice? That's what everyone wants to know. Here's the truth. I noticed. I just refused to look directly at it. I stopped buying fitted clothes, baggy everything, oversized shirts that didn't demand honesty. Out of sight, out of mind. Until one morning I tried to jog a short loop around campus, maybe half a mile, and stopped after 100 yards, hands on my knees, gasping. 100 yards? I used to run 2-hour sprint sessions without stopping. I went back to my dorm, sat on the floor, and told myself the same thing I'd been telling myself for months. I'll fix it tomorrow. But here's what nobody tells you about tomorrow. It starts to feel further and further away. I did try once. I need you to know that. Sophomore spring, new shoes, water bottle, workout app downloaded the night before. I walked into the campus gym with every intention of starting over. And the moment I walked in, everything shrank. Rows of people running effortlessly on treadmills, bodies that looked like they'd never missed a day. I found a treadmill in the back corner, set it to the lowest speed, started walking. 8 minutes in, a group nearby started laughing. Maybe not at me, probably not, but shame doesn't wait for confirmation. I stepped off, grabbed my bottle, walked out, and never went back. Sometimes the hardest part of changing isn't the effort, it's surviving shame before progress has a chance to show up. Maya and I ended quietly. No fight, no closure. She just slowly stopped showing up. And sitting alone one night with takeout I'd ordered for myself, I finally understood something. What I had mistaken for connection was just convenience. She was comfortable around me. That's not the same as caring about me. There's a difference. I graduated that May, moved back home 3 weeks later. I thought home would feel safe. I was wrong. Because at school, no one knew who I used to be. Back home, everyone did. The whispers started immediately. Grocery store, church, family gatherings, relatives I hadn't seen in years looking at me with that expression, the one that's trying to be polite and failing completely. Is that really Ella? What happened to her? She used to be such an athlete. I started avoiding everything. Grocery runs at midnight, sitting in the back row at church, canceling on family events with excuses I'd gotten very good at making. My mom made me see a doctor. I should have gone sooner. What he told me should have stopped everything. It didn't. Blood pressure dangerously high, knees showing stress damage. He chose his words carefully, the way people do when the thing they're saying is serious enough to land wrong. He said if we continued on this path, we weren't talking about quality of life. We're talking about something else entirely. I drove home, and I ordered a large pizza, because I didn't know what else to do with the fear. And fear, when you've spent years numbing yourself, doesn't feel like urgency. It feels like one more thing to eat around. That's how far gone I was. A doctor tells you that you might not survive, and you respond by ordering food. I stepped on the scale one January morning. 600 pounds. I stared at those 3 digits, and something in me cracked. Not because of the number, because of what it meant. I had started to notice things I hadn't admitted to myself. The way my breathing changed when I moved too fast. The way my knees had started sending sharp signals up my legs at night. The way I had stopped being able to fit in certain chairs, certain spaces, certain rooms. My world had been shrinking for years, and I had let it. Standing there looking at 600 pounds, I realized something I hadn't let myself think before. I might not make it out of this. Not, I need to lose weight. Not, I should probably eat better. I might not make it out of this. That was the sentence that finally broke through. Not the doctor, not the whispers, not the scale itself. The quiet, terrifying understanding that I had been slowly disappearing, and nobody could save me except me. 600 pounds, and I finally felt something I hadn't felt in years. Fear. Real fear. The kind that wakes you up. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. It was Principal Hargrove from Jefferson High, my old school, the place where everything started. Coach Denise had retired. They were rebuilding the women's program. Someone had given him my name. He asked if I'd be interested in coaching. The silence between his question and my answer stretched for so long he said, "Hello? You still there?" I had a whole speech ready. I don't look like a coach. I can't move the way I used to. What are these girls supposed to think when they see me? But underneath all of that, something small and stubborn said, "Say yes." So I did. That phone call, that one yes, that was the moment the steering wheel came back into my hands. The first day, I sat on a folding chair at the edge of the court. 14 girls, ages 15 to 17, untrained, unpolished, and full of the energy I'd forgotten existed. I was terrified, not of coaching, of being seen. But here's what I didn't expect. They didn't see what I saw when I looked at myself. They saw someone who knew things. A freshman named Alicia came up to me after the first session. "Coach, how do you know when to drive and when to pull up?" I talked for 10 minutes straight, without thinking once about how I looked. I hadn't talked about basketball in years. I hadn't felt useful in years. And standing there, at 600 pounds, barely able to stand without the chair behind me, I felt something I had completely forgotten. Purpose. That week, I made small changes, not dramatic ones, not a big announcement to myself. Water instead of soda, one walk around the block, sleeping before midnight. It felt ridiculous, honestly. After everything, a glass of water felt like the smallest possible rebellion. But small things done consistently, they add up. I had forgotten that, too. I'm not going to give you a perfect ending. I still have a very long way to go. There are days when the shame comes back loud enough to flatten me. Days when a stranger's look sends me back to every version of myself I've tried to escape. But those 14 girls show up every Tuesday and Thursday, and they're counting on me. Not the girl I used to be at 17, me, right now, exactly as I am. I lost basketball. I lost my structure. I lost myself somewhere between a scholarship that disappeared and a person who didn't love me the way I needed to be loved. But somewhere inside all of that loss, I found something quieter, something that doesn't depend on a number on a scale, or a crowd in the stands, or anyone else's opinion of who I'm supposed to be. For the first time in a very long time, I'm not running from who I am anymore. Because maybe the point was never to get back to the girl I was. Maybe the point was to finally meet the woman I was always meant to become. If Ella's story hit you somewhere real, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Only Weight Gain Stories. Every story here is about more than weight. It's about what we carry and what we finally choose to put down.